The internet was once a playground, a wild, untamed landscape of discovery, chaos, and connection. A place where the weirdest corners thrived, and the lines between genius and madness blurred with every click. But somewhere along the way, something changed. In the heart of New Orleans, where reality blurs with the absurd, an unlikely movement was born. A collective of artists, misfits, and professional button pushers who set out to ask the unthinkable. What if the internet wasn't real? What if we were all part of a simulation, but the simulation was coded by a 13-year-old who just discovered Photoshop filters and a feverish lust for irreverence and transgressions?
Very controversial was the defenestration simulator. A lot of people didn't like that.
They called themselves the virtual crew of Vaporwave.
I'm Ronald McRagan, T83. George Sevenson. It's Persuadatron.
Waffle bots, but it's spelled like regular waffle and then BOTZ_ZZ.
I give a pseudonym Razzle Dazzle within the crew.
At its inception, VKV was nothing more than an idea, a fever dream conjured over Whippet's expired original Formula 4 locos, and a desperate need to create something stupid and probably upsetting. But like all great revolutions, it began with a simple question. What if we could recreate the internet's golden age, but worse? And so the movement grew, driven by irony, nostalgia, and a complete lack of planning. A movement not meant to entertain, but to confuse, to bewilder, to make you wonder, am I in on the joke or am I the joke? But VKV wasn't content with just existing online. No, they sought to bring the digital absurdity into the real world, or as close to real as they could manage. Their mission? To create installations that blurred the lines between art, satire, and complete nonsense. Projects that would leave people asking not just why, but how did this even happen? And who even let them into the building? The crew's philosophy was simple. If it doesn't make sense, it belongs here. If it borders on offensive, it's probably just right. And if it leaves you questioning your own sanity, well, that's the point. Their installations were equal parts nostalgia and nightmare, pulling from the depths of forgotten websites and digital artifacts that should have stayed buried. But VKV knew that the true power of the internet wasn't in its ability to connect people. It was in its ability to disorient them, to turn the mundane into the bizarre and the familiar into the unsettling. And thus, the Krewe of Vaporwave took its first steps into the absurd, dragging the rest of us along for the ride.
My favorite is the Communist Party, because it's such a good joke, and we did such a good job executing.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, there we were in the fall of the Soviet Union, and had to kind of have our own commiseration of the Western world, rising up, America. And to do that, you have a party.
Oh yeah, the Communist Party. That was such a rave. And we made a lot of energy that night, right? Like everyone was cranking.
All powered by a crank, of course.
The crank was that was the center of it all.
My favorite thing there, and I think is an enduring memory of the crew, is the massive hand crank that we built. And the hand crank controlled the power to the entire party.
If you stopped cranking, the party would die. Kind of a statement, really, isn't it, to what happens when you kind of have a society based like that.
We told people this, that if you stop cranking it, the whole party's going to shut down. But it took a while for everybody to actually learn.
and like the lights were going off, and it was like the lasers and stuff.
Eventually they learned, and like somebody had to be turning the crank at all times, or the entire power to the party would shut down.
When the crank stops, who's there? You know, someone else to crank it, hopefully.
So I think people learned a lesson that day. Learned a lesson about, about organizing, how hard it might be to actually organize and get effort out of everybody. I know there were freeloaders, and I know there were people who cranked too hard. But in the end, I think it was that was like the defining installation of the party. And there were great things. The bread lines were a hit because we got a local bakery to make the bread.
We had the breaking of the Berlin Wall ourselves.
You know, we just got film people to make us a big wall, right? And we didn't give them pickaxes, we gave them sort of nerfed pickaxes, so like it would take a while. So imagine hitting drywall with a slightly heavier than a Nerf hammer. Drunk people got to, take a swing at the wall. I thought that was neat.
Everyone got a piece of the fake Berlin Wall to take home with them. Just something to consider. Next time your buddy's like, hey, I've got a piece of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, I have a piece of it under my bed right now. Piece of nasty Chinese drywall.
Which Berlin? They never say that. Or is it Berlin, Mississippi? Something to kind of think about that.
It puts the politics and the actual practice of communism into practice in a way that a lot of us, have never had to live. And I don't think their bread was as good as ours. We had good bread. It was really good.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. The face painting station, fantastic. It was Gorbachev's birthmark. It was kind of a commiseration.
The Gorbachev face painting station was amazing. You could get a port wine stain on your head.
Hell yeah, I did. And it was like this glitter, like red glitter. It was so beautiful. It just sort of was like this glowing, like had this emanating light coming from it. I was pretty little. I was like maybe like 7 at the time, maybe a little older than that. And I got my face painted with, like the Gorbachev birthmark, and like this old guy was one who painted it on there, and like was really impressed with what he did. I was like looking in the mirror, and I was like pretty happy with it. And then he just ever so slightly like leaned over and like kissed my head, and it was sort of weird, and I don't want to say traumatic, but like it kind of like affected me in a weird way, and it was kind of gross. I mean, like that's indelibly like in my head. I can't ever forget that moment of the Communist Party.
These things happened under communism, right? We're not here to change history. We're here to show you what happened. So that was just a beautiful party. Yeah.
And so, dear viewer, we arrive at the precipice of something truly unfinished. Yes, this is the moment where a proper documentary would tie up loose ends, deliver a heartwarming moral, and fade out with a contemplative drone shot. But this, dear friends, is not a proper documentary. This is a slopumentary, a glorious, chaotic, possibly fraudulent piece of audiovisual nonsense that, much like the Krewe of Vaporwave itself, thrives in the absurd, the surreal, and the wildly unverified. And now it is up to you to help us finish it. That's right, you dear traveler, reveler, and semi-willing participant in tonight's Technicolor hallucination. Hold the power to complete this masterpiece. Did the Krewe of Vaporwave warp your perception of reality? Did you witness something so impossibly strange that you're still questioning whether it happened? Did you find love, lose yourself, or simply consume a suspiciously neon beverage served out of an unmarked container? We may never know unless you tell us. So, stumble, saunter, or sashay your way over to the testimonial video booth and spill your cosmic guts. Tell the world about your incredible, fantastical, life-altering experience with the Krewe of Vaporwave, whether it happened tonight, last year, or in an alternate timeline where you remember to RSVP. Hell, make something up if you must. We're fairly certain VKV has Because with your stories, your myths, your outright lies, imagine it, your words immortalized in a documentary that may or may not actually be a documentary. A legacy of absurdity, etched into the annals of cinematic history, or don't. We'll just claim you did anyway.